Now, I didn't really prepare anything to say today, but I did want to share a few ideas about this exhibit and give you a sense of the mission and the vision of the Japanese American National Museum, why we're hosting this exhibit, and kind of put a plug for the museum in the sense that everybody who is in here, if you like what you're seeing, become a member of this museum, because there are a lot more good things, exciting things that are going to be coming down the pike as well. Let me begin by doing this, though. I don't have any tattoos. You know, it's that old chestnut, only Nixon could go to China. Maybe it's only the guy without tattoos could get the Japanese American National Museum to do a show on tattoos. The genesis of this show started about 2 years ago when I came on board as the president and CEO of the museum. I looked around Little Tokyo, I looked around Southern California, turned on the TV, seemed like every other show on cable network is about tattooing. I said, there's something going on here. You know, Kobe Bryant has kanji lettering on his arm. All these, you know, my son's preschool teachers have koi fish, you know, tattooed on their limbs. These are Japanese cultural icons, and yet they are being widely disseminated and embraced by the general public. What's going on? What's happening in the culture? And maybe there's a question here that the museum can explore. Come in, guys. Also, I noticed something else. I'm 45 years old. I am smack dab in the middle of Generation X. Most of my friends, my age, my peers, don't have tattoos. I mean, heck, it was a big deal for me in college to get my ear pierced, right? That was really radical at the time. But my youngest brother just turned 30, and I've noticed that all of his buddies have tattoos. And maybe this is what coming into middle age does to you, but I realized that something changed in the culture between Generation X and Generation Y, between Generation X and the millennial generation, and I didn't understand it. And so that was a question, an intellectual question that came up, and that's what started this whole process to actually beginning the discussion to have an exhibit on not just tattoo in general, but specifically on Japanese tattoo. I still don't know why people get tattoos, and I know everyone who has a tattoo gets a tattoo for a different reason, and I know people who have tattoos get asked, why did you get a tattoo? And you guys are all sick and tired of answering that question. There are a million different reasons, so I'll let the people who have them, you know, answer that question if they want to. But for me, it's an opportunity, once we got past the sociological question of what happened within the culture, to delve a little bit more deeply. And this is the conversation with Kip, and then the conversation with Taki started us down the path of having this exhibit. And let me tell you something. We have some members of our Board of Governors and Trustees who are in the room today. This was not an easy sell at this museum, because most of our 200 plus docents here are what we refer to as Nisei, second generation, folks who have gone through the internment process during World War II. And when they think of tattoo, and when they think of Japanese tattoo, they think of Yakuza. That's what comes to mind. And I had to do a bit of a sales job, and a reassuring job with folks as well, to say, listen, tattoo is different. And yes, there's this association in Japan, but look at the kids who are coming through the front door of the museum. And if we want to get the message, the core moral message of our museum, which is the fight against racism and prejudice, we want to get that message out to younger generations and outside of the Japanese community, Japanese American community. We have to give people who are perhaps not ethnically Japanese reasons to come here. And what better reason than this wonderful cultural inheritance of Japanese aesthetics in Japanese tattoo. So that is a not too short explanation of how we got from point A to point B. But this is really the first exhibit of 3 that we're going to have this year. So this is going to be the plug for you to become members and to come back to this museum at least 2 more times in the calendar year 2014. We are pushed all in on the idea that we want to expand our membership and to get younger and more diverse audiences here to the museum to learn about the core story of Japanese America. And I call it the sizzle and the steak. You know, there's many wonderful things about Japanese American culture that we want to share with the rest of the United States and with the world. And so the tattoo arts is one of them. At the end of this month, well, I should say this, the last 2 times that I've mentioned this, one I was in New York, and then the second time I was in San Francisco and I got booed. But at the end of this month, we're hosting an exhibit called Dodgers Brotherhood of the Game. We have Dodgers fans in here? All right. Well, you know, I'm not by nature a Dodgers fan, although in the National League they become my team. I'm a Red Sox fan. But to tell you the truth, I'm not really, you know, a fan of baseball. And so the idea behind this exhibit, Dodgers Brotherhood of the Game, is sort of the Ken Burns theory, which is you don't really have to be a fan of the particular team or the sport or sport in general to understand that there's an important story about America's civil rights history that can be read through the lens of the Dodgers. Of course, starting with Jackie Robinson, Hideo Nomo, Chan Ho Park, Sandy Koufax, and folks that we're going to be featuring. So that's going to be opening at the end of this month. And then in October, we will be hosting an exhibit called Super Cute, the 40th birthday, the 40th anniversary of Hello Kitty. And that is going to be occupying both of the temporary exhibit spaces on the first floor and on the second floor. We're going to explore yes, this is an audience developing exhibit. Is it intellectually deep? Well, you be the judge. We hired the world scholar on Hello Kitty, she's a professor at Hawaii Manoa and is doing a year teaching at Harvard. So she has that alphabet soup behind her name. It's going to be the middle of October when that opens, in time for her birthday, which is November 2nd, when she and her twin sister Mimi were born in London. So I've been learning all these things I never imagined I would. But we're, you know, Hello Kitty, as my 5-year-old daughter told me, she's a maneki neko. She's a, you know, you go into a Japanese household, or you go into a sushi restaurant, you see this welcoming cat, the lucky cat with the paw that goes like that. That's what she is. And that's the hook that we're using to build out this big exhibit, part of which is going to be showcasing the art that involves Hello Kitty, and the other piece of it will be the phenomenon of Hello Kitty itself, or herself. And we have Lady Gaga's Hello Kitty dress, Katy Perry's Hello Kitty dress, 9 dresses from America's Top Model that are Hello Kitty themed, and I have personally seen like 2,000 or 3,000 artifacts at the South Bay warehouse for Sanrio. At the same time, Sanrio is going to be hosting Hello Kitty Con, so we are going to be inundated with folks. But really, I call this the sizzle and the steak, right? Taki said this better than I could say it in his remarks last night, where he's talking about kind of what this museum stands for. That at its center, at its moral heart, is a story of Japanese America that swings around the experience, the tragedy of World War II, where 120,000 Americans of Japanese descent were forcibly removed from their homes on the West Coast and put into concentration camps west of the Rockies. It's a story that many of you might be familiar with, but increasingly with budgets for school curricula being frozen, with new curricula being developed, the story of this unhappy part of American history gets, maybe a paragraph in the U.S. history books. Well, it's the sacred obligation of this museum to make sure that that story of that moral peril never goes away. And also, the flip side of that is the tremendous sacrifices that our ancestors and our forebears have made in order to make America a better place, including the story of the World War II Japanese-American veterans, including wonderful stories like the group that liberated Dachau. Imagine that, a group from the 522nd Artillery Battalion, composed entirely of Japanese Americans whose families were behind barbed wire in internment camps in the United States, were the first group to liberate the outstations of Dachau death camp in Germany, and the ironies involved with that. So these are the core stories that we tell, and but we need to branch out and find other hooks so that people who are not of the Japanese American descent feel there are interesting things happening here at the Japanese American National Museum. Folks who might never even consider coming here because they see Japanese American National Museum, they think, oh, that's not for me. Well, we believe that the Japanese American story is an American story, and we want to feature it as an American story. And we also want to learn from everyone else's story too, where the story of our ethnic group parallels that of other groups, immigrant groups, where it intersects and where it may even be different. And there are very few places that do diversity well. We use the term multiculturalism and diversity. They've become bywords or catchwords. But doing diversity well is actually a lot of hard work. It's places like JANM, though, this museum, which is dedicated to continuing that conversation and doing the hard work of becoming a truly multicultural nation that truly values its diverse parts. So I'm not going to fill up the whole half an hour talking, but I wanted to give you a little sense of the energy and some of the new and exciting exhibits and things, of which Perseverance is really the inaugural piece. I did want to say one last thing. I don't really look like the head of a museum right now, right? Because I wanted to wear the Perseverance t-shirt, which you can buy at the museum store. I'm modeling it here for you. But it was a huge sacrifice for Taki, whose family is here. Mother is here today as well as his wife Molly. For Kip and for his family. Kip had his second child during the course of putting this exhibit together, and it was a tremendous amount of work and sacrifice. The idea here was always to honor the great contribution to art the Japanese tattoo is. And as was said last night, you guys who have these tattoos, you understand that it's art. But people outside that community, and certainly the artistic world, is not at that place. It was a big, bold move to do this exhibit here, in the sense that we wanted to be the first place to showcase this and to make that bold statement. Now, the flip side is, you guys get your tattoos in part because you love the art, but also, let's face it, because it's a little bit rock and roll, right? It's a little bit bad boy. It's a little bit, dangerous, right? So, how do you guys feel now, that a museum is actually featuring this artwork, giving its imprimatur to the art of Japanese tattoo? The flip side of this is that, and it's a peril, I think, for folks within this community, of it becoming, too mainstreamed. I don't know, but that's for you guys to worry about, not for us. We are just very proud of the opportunity to host this, to work with these wonderful folks. And, you know, presenting this art was important. It's been a lot of hard work. It's also been a joy. But perhaps even more important, I think, are the friendships that have been made and will continue to be developed through the course of this exhibit. And can I just, before ending here, can I just get a sample? How many of you have been to this museum before? Okay. I'd say about a third of people raised their hands. So, you know, the goal of getting new people here is working. And so we appreciate very much all the work that Taki and Kip have done. And I'm going to cede the rest of my time to them, or I guess we'll be taking a little bit of break where you can stretch your legs before the next speaker begins.